So here's the nervous center. Alright, so let's do the first one first. When a baroreceptor senses low pressure, this means that there's not enough fluid volume in the vessels. To increase this, the kidney increases resorption of sodium and lowers the release of water. The net result is increase in fluid volume. Does that part make sense? Alright, so how does it do this? So, to accomplish this, ABP, ADH is okay, so the specific mechanism where this works is the baroreceptor sends a nervous impulse to the posterior pituitary. The posterior pituitary releases AVP. So it's produced in the hypothalamus and then it's stored, ready to be released in the posterior pituitary. So once this, and the posterior pituitary is the neurohypophysis. So if you think neuro, we're going back to too much physiology, but it may help. So it's nervous impulses to be released, right? The anterior pituitary, which we'll look at next week, tends to be more hormonally controlled. But so you've got a nervous impulse. It goes to the posterior pituitary, the arginine vasopressin is released and travels to the kidney. When it travels to the kidney, it does these things. Those things put together increase fluid volume. There's this other little part, and this is why I really, of all the chapters in this book, these two chapters are separated out in a way that I think maybe they shouldn't be, because they all go together. I know there's probably no perfect way to do it. But, so here's your blood vessel, right? So if you just send more sodium in, and you send a little more water in, right? So from the kidney. So you've, in theory, sent more sodium back than you've sent water back in. So how are you going to increase your blood volume some more? You also have interstitial fluid, which is covered more in 35, but that hangs out around your cells because we don't directly go from the blood vessel directly into the cell. We go from the blood vessel to the interstitial fluid to the cell. There's this little, this is coming back sort of from anatomy, kind of, okay. So if you have hyperconcentration of sodium relative to the amount of water, right, you've just added all the sodium back in, you can also draw fluid from other places, which can also increase your volume. The net point of this is to increase fluid volume. Increasing fluid volume increases fluid pressure. Okay, so which means an increase in blood pressure. Because our system is a relatively closed system, the more fluid in it, the more pressure there is. And This is the ideal gas law. Have you guys seen this? All right, so we're not dealing with gases, and we're not going to do partial pressures of gases or anything like that. But pressure, in a closed system, pressure and volume work together. So, okay, so fluid from other places. So this can be the interstitial fluid. Or cells themselves can release a little bit of fluid, but of course you're releasing from the cell to the interstitial fluid back into the cell. So you can only disturb the balance of the interstitial fluid so far. You can only lose so much water, because otherwise you'll start to shrivel your cells. But we'll stop here. All right, so I'm going to go through this one more time, and then I'm going to erase it, and we'll do the reverse. We'll do the high pressure. So we're starting with low pressure. A baroreceptor senses low pressure. This means there is not enough fluid volume in the vessels. Problem, no blood to brain. Problem, no nutrients to cells. To increase this, the overall mechanism is the kidney increases resorption of sodium and lowers the release of water. We'll get to potassium in a little bit. The net result is an increase in fluid volume in the blood vessels, right? Which is an increase in blood pressure. More volume, more pressure, because there's no place else for it to go. How specifically does this work? The baroreceptors send a nervous impulse to the posterior pituitary to get it to release arginine vasopressin. Then arginine vasopressin travels to the kidney and tells it what to do. So I'll take a picture of that. We'll let that sit for a minute, and then we'll do the reverse.